Portugal is I don't know, I love doing business here, but also I just enjoy the culture and the restaurants and yeah, it's a beautiful place to come visit. I have multiple mentors that I work with on a daily basis, but I think that if I look at the mentors who mean most to me today, it's people I work with every day. I think you got to remember you can learn from the people you work with every day. You just got to keep your ears open, not your mouth all the time. So every single person you work with knows something that they can teach you. So I think that's an important aspect of it. In the US, I think they see failure the same way. You know, they don't like to fail in business either. It's a common misconception, I think, because there's a few. But you know, when you sit down and you start looking at it, business owners need to work together. Business owners need to help each other, because the more. When one business grows and adds employees, then it adds more customers for other businesses. So we need all businesses to work together to help all businesses. And I think that's a really important aspect of what should happen on a daily basis. Business ownership is a really lonely job. It's a challenge when you own your own business. You can't go and talk to your staff about the problems. Most of the time you're not trying to talk to your spouse about it because you don't want to worry them. You know, business owners need to come together and communicate with each other and learn from each other and almost just see that they're not going through, it's not just them that is struggling with these things. Every business owner struggles with these things. And so it's a matter of saying, you know, how can we help each other is a very big part of it. I think you've got to put your focus on developing profit straight away, developing a business that will actually make money from day one. A lot of business managers and owners, let me put it bluntly, they fall in love with a product or they fall in love with a service and they think, I love this, so everyone else should love this. What you start selling in your business is very different to what you end up selling. Now, you know, for a first-time business owner, it seems cheaper to go on and start their own business. I actually would rather teach them how to buy a business that exists, that they can use their good knowledge and their work ethic to turn that business into something special. You know, if it's already existing and it's proven that customers want that product or service. But there's so many things that you can focus in on. But the sales and marketing has to be one of the big priorities. Obviously, a great product or service is necessary as well. A business owner has to be, I don't know, the saying in Australia is you've got to be a jack of all trades. You've got to be good at all aspects of business. And that's where a lot of business people fall down. They don't train themselves to be business owners. They train themselves to be a hairdresser or a chef, or you know, they don't train themselves to do the sales, the marketing, the management, the financing, the leasing, all of these different aspects. Being great at the job of the business is important. But what's more important is being great at the running of the business. You know, if I look at it in the last 6 months, I've bought a company in Australia that imports vehicles, a company in London that is a liquor distributor, so at home delivered alcohol type thing, like the Uber of alcohol delivery. I've bought a company in the UK that is a search engine optimization and social media management company. You know, I buy all these companies with I don't know the job of the business. I don't know how to do the vehicle importing, but I know how to run the business of vehicle importing. I don't know how to be the social media manager, but I know how to run the business of social media management and so on. And so I think it's really important to understand that you are a business person, not the job of the business. Your job is to run the business, not to do the work. Now, when we start out, everyone has to be doing both. I mean, that's why the first few years in business are so tough. You've got to not only do, if we stay with hairdressing, you've got to not only be the hairdresser, you've also got to be running the hairdressing business. So you work a lot of hours in those first few years doing both jobs and getting good at both jobs. But the most important thing, I think, for a new business owner is to stay focused on learning. Your current knowledge will only get you so far. You've got to keep growing and keep learning as a business person so that your business can keep growing. And I think that's one of the most important areas where business owners fall down. They stop learning and then the business stops growing, and then they hit challenges. I would never say education is a waste of time. I would always say that education is a valuable thing and everybody should do it. That being said, on-the-job training is just as important as educational focus. I know for me, when I was doing my university training, the biggest thing that I did was make sure that I had on the job as well, that I was working in companies and doing things. So I think that's important. That being said, lack of management is a massive challenge the world over. The world over. There are plenty of people who are trained in being leaders, but not in managers, and it's almost become a bad word to say someone is a manager. It's like you need to be a leader, not of people. Don't manage your people. And that's not true. If you want to run a good business, you need good management practices, which managing is about creating competent people, about creating people who can do the job and do it well. Leadership is about inspiring them to go above and beyond. So getting them to do the job well comes down to very basic things. Are you managing them on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis? Are you meeting with them weekly? Are you communicating with your team what needs to happen on a weekly basis so that everybody knows what everybody's doing and they can work together? Are you measuring the results? Too many businesses never measure the results, and if you're not measuring an employee's results, don't expect them to do a good job. It's quite simple in that way. But as you say, I try and make everything very simple because business is actually quite simple. People overcomplicate business and they make it so much harder than it is. It's a simple thing. You have a product or service and you want your customer to have it. You want them to enjoy the product or service. You want them to want to come back and do it. And if you stay focused on the simplicity of business and the basics of business, usually you'll do very well. If, however, you try and get all complex and spreadsheet analysis and all of this, usually you start to struggle in business. Yeah, you got to have the details, but most importantly, it's about that customer's experience. And if you want the customer to have a great experience, then your employees have to have a great experience. So how you take care of your employees is how they take care of the customers, and that's how the customer takes care of the business. A lot of business owners, they're very hard-working people. Let's get that very correct. Yeah, but it's one of the hardest working people there is someone who's started their own business, because not only do they have to do the job, but they have to run the business, and they have all of the added stress of owning the business. It's hard work running a business. It really is. And anyone who tries to tell you you can succeed in business without working hard is crazy. Hard work is part of success in business. Now, that being said, if you can focus in on the right things in business, and this is why, very simply put, why I started Action Coach. Business owners sometimes lose focus and they start focusing on the wrong things. You mentioned it just there that they don't do enough of the marketing and they don't do enough of the sales. They place an ad and then sit back and wait and hope that it's all going to happen. Well, the fact is that you've got to be on the hustle all day, every day. You've got to be working and trying to generate business. The job of the owner is really the rainmaker. Your job is to make sure there's plenty of business coming in to the business. And it's easy to get focused on, as I said, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. If the ship's going down, you need to be getting the water off the ship rather than that. In business, it's all about, are you getting more customers? Are you buying more customers? Are you bringing in more business? Are you getting your existing customers coming back? It's all about that customer relationship. And if the business has got customers and is making money, everything else can be taken care of. So customer service focus and sales and marketing focus is very important. There's a very big difference between education and wisdom. Education is what we get from a book, what we get from a teacher. Wisdom is what we get from application. When you use what you learn, you gain wisdom. There's a big difference. Wisdom is not, someone once said that knowledge is power, and I kind of disagree. It's more about the application of knowledge that brings power. I mean, education is really important, but using what you learn. That's why my company's called ActionCOACH. It's not about the theory or the gee, that was a good book. It's about what did you actually do with what you learn. And that's why, you've said it a couple of times, and I simplify everything because I don't want it to be complex. I want people to be able to use what we teach and to be able to take action on it tomorrow. And that's a major focus of what I try and do. I love Portugal, but to say that Portugal is harder to do business than anywhere else is just a fallacy. You have an amazing group of customers here. Now, here's the thing. When the economy goes down, there are a lot of businesses that fail. There's still the customer out there. So you've still got a lot of opportunity. That being said, you've also got a lot of opportunity internationally. And this is one of the biggest challenges I find in Portugal. People are so focused on Portugal, they forget that you have all of these other countries out there that you could be selling to, and that's a big part of it. 30 to 50% taxes. Look, I do business in some countries where the taxes are way higher than that. So, I do business in 59 countries. I'm not concerned with the taxes. I'm concerned with the opportunities. If you stay focused on all of your costs, it's very rare you'll ever succeed. You've got to stay focused on your sales, your marketing, bringing in money. People need to buy things. Let's be real blunt. Do people still eat today in Portugal? Yes, so sell them food. Do people still need cars? Yes. Do they still need gasoline? Do they still need... People still buy these things, and it's, people didn't stop spending 100% of their money. They stopped spending maybe 20% of their money when the economy changed. And this is what we have to understand. But that being said, there are countries in the world in boom right now. Are you trying to sell there? Is your website set up in Chinese? Does your website sell into India? And this is one of the big challenges, that we stay so insular in our thinking. The world is now global. Business is now global. Where are you selling to? You can ship stuff from Portugal into the United States just as easy as someone from one side of the United States can ship it to the other side of the United States. So where there's money, go and sell. Don't just think about doing business in your same city or your same street. I look at some of the products and services that Portugal is famous for, and you start sitting down thinking, how are they selling that into markets that have plenty of money? Canada is a booming country right now. They've still got plenty of money. So who's doing business there? So I always throw these challenges out that, yes, some economies take a dive, but when one is down, another is up. There's always growing economies in the world. And there's always growing economies within the country too. Some parts of the country are doing better than other parts of the country. So, sometimes you got to open your eyes to the opportunity. Stop looking down at the puddles and the stones, and start looking at where you can build. Governments can always assist companies. Look, when you sit down and you think about what is a government's role is partially to protect and serve and take care of the community and allocate the resources. But job creation is a major part of a government's role. And the number one way to create jobs is to help businesses create jobs. Business people are the best job creators on the planet. And if a government wants more jobs, it's pretty simple. They've got to help more business. I work with the Leadership Council at the World Bank. And the goal of the World Bank is to eradicate poverty. And how do we, my goal is to do that through building employers, not employees. See, people come through the schooling system and they want to go and get a job. Who's going to give them that job? Someone that's an entrepreneur. So we need to think about creating more employers, not more employees. And, I sit down and I look at it. Probably the best government in the world at doing that right now is the English government. In the UK, they have a very strong program that allocates funding to businesses to go and get help. And I know that we work with tens of thousands of companies across the UK, helping them grow their business, that the government helps them pay for it. because it's very simple. If we help that business grow and they add 1 or 2 employees, that's a phenomenal job acquisition program in that country. Here in Portugal, the government is doing a lot of very good things. And unfortunately, a lot of the things you do as a government don't have an effect for 3, 5, 10, 20 years. So you can't always sit down and say, well, they're not doing anything for me today. Well, sometimes the government's planning is a little longer future than just, the next election cycle. Sometimes they've got to think longer term. And that's the same for us as business people. A lot of things we do don't impact us this quarter or this year, but it impacts us next year and the year after. And so, we've got to take a long-term focus sometimes when we're going through crisis. But, look, a lot of businesses, and let me put it very blunt, a lot of businesses got very fat and happy in the 2007, 2008 era where, everyone thought they were geniuses, but it was just that the market was going very, very strong, and so everyone did well. But the problem was most people didn't put that money away. They didn't actually put the money away and save it and get ready for the next or invest that money in their future. They gambled that money. They didn't know what they were doing, and they bought into housing projects where they didn't know what was really going on. And there's a big difference. And I think long term, though, you've got to look at Portugal as a very strong country with very strong business ethics. Really good entrepreneurs, and I think it's that entrepreneurial nature that will get us through. It probably is rude to them, but if you're doing the wrong thing, someone needs to tell you you're doing the wrong thing. Today's world, marketing is both far easier and far more complex than it's ever been. Easier in the terms that you can get to a specific targeted niche market far easier than you've ever done before. Online marketing and media marketing, to be very blunt, today someone uses their credit card in a store to buy a book, I can start marketing to that person within 1 hour online, knowing that that person has already purchased those things. Someone searches something online, I can tell that they've searched that online, and I can now put advertisements in their Facebook or in their online searches on Google to tell them about my products or services. So, yeah, absolutely. Sales is about getting the next customer. Marketing is about getting the next 1,000 customers. And if you're so focused on one customer you forget to go for 1,000, then yes, I need to be rude to you. I need to tell you to stop thinking that way. We've got to understand that business is a longer term project than the next customer. Yes, we need to pay the bills today. Yes, we do need that customer, but we've got to have a double-edged focus. We've got to continue going after it. In today's world, it's easier to get people to contact you than it is for you to go out there and find that, as they say, needle in a haystack, that one person that's ready to buy your product. If they're ready to buy your product, there's a very good chance they're doing a search online right now about your product or service. There's a very good chance one of their friends knows that they're ready to buy your product or service. There's a very good chance that one of their friends already bought your product or service, be it from you or from a competitor. So how you're marketing today is very different. Now, the philosophy of this new book, though, is a very different philosophy. It's about how do you buy customers? How do you actually go out there and invest money to get a return? Before, look, when I first started in business, it was about just run advertisements and, if people know your name, then maybe they'll buy from you type thing. Today, marketing is far more sophisticated than that. Business people are far more sophisticated than that. They know that if they invest €1,000 and that's what they spend on an advertisement, they need to make 2, 5, 10,000 euros back from that. You can't just throw money at advertising today. It doesn't work that way anymore. Even today, you see it, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola used to be one of the biggest spenders, and you could see their ads on TV every single day. Now you only see it during special large events. You don't see them every day on TV. Why is that, do you think? because they've learned to buy customers. Instead of spending fortune on advertising, they go and pay money to get a hotel to be only selling Coke, or a stadium to only sell Coke rather than their competitors Pepsi. You know, these are some of the smart moves of marketing today, where we need to keep up with that rather than trying to fall behind. Yes, you can do the legwork, and yes, networking and door knocking will always be a part of business. But it's more important to focus on getting 1,000 people coming to you than it is you finding one person. The measuring aspect of marketing is a very important aspect. To know if your marketing is working is something you actually have to really be focused in on. Should marketing managers be under pressure to buy leads at a right price and to buy customers at the right price? Yes, marketing managers should be under that pressure. You know, just designing a new website and a new logo is no longer valid. The website actually has to generate leads. It has to generate new business on a day-to-day basis. Social media is no longer about just how many tweets did you put on Twitter or how many pictures on Instagram. It's, did we get someone making a purchase today because of social media? And if you don't get people making a purchase, then you're doing it wrong. That's the simple basics of it. You need to be your marketing needs to generate sales, not just awareness and not just brand recognition anymore. First thing is, buy all my books and read them. Start there. I know that's a sales plug, but that's the reality. Education comes before starting a business. I would rather people read the books and invested in knowledge than invested in a business and made a mistake. Second thing they've got to do is realize that they need to become a business owner, okay? So go and get a job in sales, go and get a job in marketing, go and learn these things first before starting your own business. Don't make the mistake of having to learn these things on your own dime. You know, if you've got to pay for the business and learn sales, it's going to cost you a lot of time and money. Third thing is, I think it's better to learn how to buy a business than it is how to start a business. Starting a business is one of the toughest things you'll ever do because you have 0 customers to start with. At least if you buy an existing company. Now, people say, but I don't have the money to buy an existing company. If you learn what you're doing and you understand it properly, you can learn how to get funding for any deal you do. But again, that's a learning aspect behind it, how to get people to invest. And people don't invest in the idea, they invest in the person. You've got to become someone that people would want to invest in more than just becoming, writing a good business plan, I guess. And from there, I think it's about finding an opportunity where the market wants to buy it rather than you want to sell it. What does the market need in your area? What is there what is the gap in the market? And it's a simple one. I'll give you an example. You know, everyone wants to own a coffee shop, but there's already 20 coffee shops in your market. Go and find a town or go and find a city that doesn't have many coffee shops and start it there. People are look, if you want to start a good business, you need to find a gap in the market. Look for the gap and satisfy the need. If the market loves the product or service, then you'll always succeed. If you love it and the market doesn't, you know, that old saying of do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, well, do what the market loves and you'll end up having a business that works so you don't have to, and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Much easier strategy in my mind. If you have a challenge in business, it's because there's a gap in your knowledge base. If sales is a challenge, it's because you don't know enough about sales. If you're not getting enough new business, it's because you don't know enough about marketing and getting new business. If you're not getting referrals, it's because you don't know how to get referrals. There's a lot of things in business where we have to gain knowledge. And gaining knowledge comes one of 3 ways. Either we employ someone who already knows what they're doing and can do it for us. But here's the challenge with that. If you don't know at least a little bit about the subject, how do you know you're employing someone who actually knows what they're doing? So you've got to at least read 1 or 2 books to be able to employ someone, to be even able to ask the right questions of that employee. You've got to know a little bit more about what you're doing. So the second way we gain knowledge is that, reading books. And the third way is getting a mentor, getting someone who actually knows what they're doing and can help you grow your business. I would suggest all 3 if you can afford it, but most people can only afford to start with one or the other. If it's books, great. If it's a mentor, phenomenal. If you can hire that person, even better. But make sure you at least know how to ask the right questions when you're hiring that person. Learning and earning. If you've only ever learned to run a $100,000 a year business, that's as big as you'll ever run. If you've only ever learned to make a million a year, that's the most you can ever make. You can't out-earn your learning. So gaining knowledge is priority number 1 if you want to gain bigger business. It's pretty simple that way. And I know it seems overly simple. The biggest truths on the planet usually are quite simple. It's when we start to get into the complexities of it all that we start to worry about it. Business is pretty simple. Got to get to work, but you got to know what you're doing if you want to make it work.